Information Talk Radio.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Good morning and welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery and life. And I'm going to talk to you about something today with a very special guest that I know every single one of us wants to know more about. First of all, we hear this term bandied about all around the world, all around the globe, something called emotional intelligence, right? I want to know what it is, what defines it, how we measure it, and how this contributes to our getting well in recovery. So, as always, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx brought along an expert today, and that is emotional intelligence coach Genese Dadzie, because she's going to uncover some surprising answers. But let me tell you a little bit about Genese first. She helps individuals unlock their true potential. She's a life coach who specializes in emotional intelligence and high performance. She empowers individuals to tap into their abilities that they never knew they had. And her coaching journey began with a profound personal loss, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about that this morning. But I want you to know that she is here to help us conquer our emotions, find out what emotional intelligence is, and transform our dreams into reality. So that's a tall order, Genese. The Pushy Broad from the Bronx is very pleased to welcome Genese Dadzie. Good morning, Genese. How are you?
Good morning. I am fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. I'm very glad to be here with you today. So tell me very basically, because I'm not exactly sure what this is all about, what is emotional intelligence? What does it mean to you?
Okay. So generally people say emotional intelligence is managing your own emotions and influencing the emotions of others. And there's different domains of that, whether it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, or social management. But for me personally, I think emotional intelligence is being able to assess, strategize, and execute elevated levels of emotion.
Okay, so this began as a personal journey for you. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to pass?
Yes. So I'll start by saying currently that I am a third-year medical student, and I'm also pursuing my doctorate in business administration. But it hasn't always been this glorious and beautiful journey for me. Back in 2005, I lost my mother suddenly to a brain aneurysm. And from there, just the loss of my mother at 19 years old sent me into a free fall in any way that you can imagine, emotionally, financially, spiritually. And from there, I ended up in a situation where not only was I looking for that void, to fill that void with family, friends, there were times where partying, alcohol, drugs came into play, where I was trying to find the love of my mother, find that comfort again. And so over a number of years after going through that period, I found that there was some little piece of grit inside of me that said, you know what, my mother wouldn't want me to continue on this path. So I have to find some way to push beyond it and get back to the dreams that I know my mother always believed that I could accomplish. And so from there, like, I started seeing some little peaks of encouragement and hope and faith. And so from there, it was making the connections that I didn't have to live a life of fear of loss, fear of not becoming my full self and experiencing my full potential. It became faith. And so I began living a life of faith. And so from there, my journey of emotional intelligence began.
Well, you said You said that you started with, of course, the profound loss of your mother, and you were very vulnerable at 19. And usually at 19, no matter what, we're just graduating high school, we're entering college. We are always exposed to all kinds of things. I had also my bout with alcohol and drugs and processing so many things. And you had a high emotion and a profound loss, but you were able to transform yourself and now become a medical student, which is a wonderful thing. So tell us, give us some insight. What is some of the internal dialogue you went through to get yourself to this position of high emotional intelligence?
Yeah, so it's like for overall a sense of compassion and self-compassion is crucial. It's like, the saying, this too shall pass. Having that sense of forward focus and solution focus was the biggest thing for me. So I had to sit down and examine the origin of some of those emotions, some of those fears that I was having, and that sense of despair and disappointment. I had to pinpoint those things first and then be able to encourage myself to say, okay, I do have the ability to handle this. I don't know how exactly now, but I do know that I can. And any small step in that direction is golden. Like I said, when I hit those valleys, I knew there was a peak coming, and so I was able to kind of trudge through some of the lower moments in order to be able to get back to that peak, and more swiftly after a while.
Well, I understand exactly what you're trying to say, and I do this in my coaching as well with my clients. First of all, we talk about the fact that what happens to us is we begin an awareness of sorts, right? What am I doing and why am I doing it? And it's almost a detachment and saying to ourselves, and I talk to my clients all the time about taking yourself out of the play and putting yourself in the audience. What do you see happening to you, right? Why am I feeling so strongly? Where are these strong emotions coming from? And how do I process these emotions? And one of the things we learn in recovery is simply to let go, let God. What can I let go and not have drag me down in my life, right? What can I do? But like you said, it begins with awareness. And that's kind of a curious role we take, right? Curiosity plays a big part in emotional intelligence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that it deepens our understanding of what span of emotions that I'm experiencing. It's like when I was able to pinpoint those emotions, when I was curious about it, I was able to say, yeah, this feels like despair to me because it makes me feel like I want to close off to everything. It makes me feel that I don't want to connect with people. I was watching an interview with Russell Brand, and he talks about we're all in search of a connection to ourselves, each other, and God. And so when I felt like I didn't want to connect with others, that made me feel that, okay, this is a low point that I'm hitting. And so I need to do something to shake this off. And so asking the questions, the who, what, when, where, how questions help me to understand, like, okay, this is a point where I need to maybe reach out, or this is a point maybe I need to sit down and be still. And then it helped me to lock into a deeper understanding of my own emotions and gave me insights on those triggers too.
So, how do you think we can find some ways to build our emotional intelligence during times of fear and depression and anger and frustration?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest or the most consistent jump that I've noticed is faith. When we're in fear and frustration, finding a way to connect to faith in what we can do. Like I said, just finding that small step that we can take from where we are. Um, and understanding that other people have been in a situation similar or exactly to what I've experienced, and they've come through it too. Like when I watch people like Tony Robbins, Brendon Burchard, and some of those big names out there, they've experienced some of the things that I have too. So when I'm able to connect with, there's a way out of this, that faith, okay, gives me a little jump, and so I acknowledge where I'm at, and then I understand that, and then there's power within that faith that I have. So faith is the biggest jump for me from frustration and fear.
And there is spirituality in our own recovery, not specifically faith, but certainly a spirituality, the kind of things that you talked about before, where connection helps us a great deal, right? Like you said with the Russell Brand video that you watched. Connection. The opposite of addiction is connection. And also when you're going through a profound loss, you are experiencing the 5 stages of grief, right? You're experiencing all of the negative emotions that come with that, which is denial and anger and bargaining and what else is there? Forgiveness, acceptance, right? Exactly. Anger, all of those things. But nevertheless, the negative emotions are what differentiates us from the positive emotions. So how do we find out what those are? How can we move forward and really let go of those emotions one by one? What are the things we ask ourselves? What do we do?
Some of the things that I would say is asking a question of what got me here? What was the triggering event? What was the conversation? Usually when we have conversations or our own thoughts, we feel a certain thing. And sometimes when you have a conversation with somebody who is not necessarily your cup of tea, you might feel drained after you talk to them. And it's like, wow, maybe 6 months, a year, I'll talk to that person again, maybe the next holiday or whatever. But then there are people that you speak to that make you feel uplifted when you get off the phone with them. You're like, yeah, I could conquer the world, So when you have those feelings of the draining feeling versus the uplifted feeling, you'll know like that is your tribe. And the more you connect with those type of people, or even the thoughts that you have, if they make you feel like a victim, or they make you feel down and depressed, then you understand like, okay, I gotta do something. Again, reaching for faith, reaching for just a little bit better of emotion will help you to be able to overcome that. But then again, just understanding that momentum will lead you in a certain direction. So watch the momentum, be able to understand where you are at any point in the day. Like even now for your listeners, what emotion are you experiencing right now? Take note. What's making me feel this way? I tell people that I try to stay in a state of contentment or better. And then below contentment is like boredom. Like, are your listeners bored listening to me right now? Just take a note of, hopefully not, but take note of where you are on a regular basis. And then again, working to feel just a little bit better, and it'll help.
I find that I need to know that I am in a state of peace, balance, and serenity on a daily basis. And I talk to my clients about that as well. It's the peace of mind knowing that there is nothing coming in to aggravate me. It's the balance of the day, balancing my work and my pleasure, and the serenity of knowing that I'm exactly where I want to be. So I look towards that in bringing myself back. So if I'm having a difficult day, I keep saying to myself, how can I bring myself back to peace, balance, and serenity? Do you think that these approaches transcend cultural differences and the expression of emotional intelligence? Do you think these things have to do with various cultures? What do you think about that?
A couple of things come to mind. One is a book that I read not too long ago about how emotions are made. And the author, Lisa Barrett, she talked about how she went and studied emotions in an obscure area or tribe within Africa. And the way that they process emotions are a lot different than what we do in the Western culture. And they don't process them as like happy or sad or whatever. They process them as as descriptions. Someone laughing, someone crying, someone having a mad face or angry face. We put them in those words, but they have a totally different way of expressing emotions. And so I think when you're making connections with people, just understanding that once we get like a foundation, we can kind of move from there. And then in my own community, some people will say, I don't experience emotions. I have no emotions. I've heard that before. I have no emotions. And it's like, not actually, So for people who don't understand that they have emotions, they tend to not express them. They tend to not manage them. And then there tends to be dysregulation with those emotions. So when you're interacting with certain people who feel that way, just understand you might be dealing with a mixed bag here. So But again, coming with compassion, coming with empathy for where they're at, but understanding that sometimes these misconceptions about emotions and people thinking that you don't even have to have them, or that they're not useful, can really play a role in their ability to navigate them, one, and then to be able to navigate the world around them.
You're absolutely right. And I want to talk a little bit about how this affects recovery specifically, because the program is Recovery Recharge. But before I do that, are you working with clients now in emotional intelligence?
Not currently, not currently. So I'm looking to fill my slots up with some
So
people.
where can people find you?
So they can actually text me at 773-759-0100. They can text the word HPEQ coach, and I will essentially get them started with an assessment. And then for the first 10 people who text that number, 773-759-0100, for the first 10 people, I will give them a 30-minute complimentary session, and we can just kind of dig into some of those things and see what we can outline, and again, build that foundation and move on from there. So again,
Can you repeat that number a little slowly one more time?
sure thing. It is 773-759-0100. And they can text HPEQ coach.
Fantastic. Okay, so now recovery. I know how deeply emotional intelligence affects us in recovery. So share your experiences with us.
Yes. So the thing for me in recovery would be management for when it comes to emotions. You know, I talked about the 4 domains of emotional intelligence, and it would be not only social management, but self-management too. So being able to use emotional intelligence in recovery means kind of reverse engineering the addiction, saying that, okay, well, maybe there's a trigger. Some people say it's people, places, or things, but I would argue to say there is an emotion connected there. So if you're able to go right in and tackle those things, like for me, it was the despair. For me, it was the loneliness. For me, it was that gaping hole of not having my mother. And so I would go to that because I wanted to at least numb myself and feel like, oh yeah, you know, I'm having a moment where I feel good about life again. And so when I was able to understand those emotional barriers or those emotional triggers, I was able to find peace, and I was able to find a path again that helps me to understand the cycles and be able to understand those connections and be able to reconnect with myself and my power.
I think what everybody has to understand in recovery is a lot of the things that you're absolutely saying is the fact that we now can experience emotions without numbing out. Right? Because if I didn't want to deal, I wanted to isolate, I didn't want to experience anything, either too much joy or too much anger or too much hurt. The emotional scale was so high that I had to try to escape and not deal with anything. And to make that happen, I went into drinking and drugging, just like everybody else that is out there still hurting and not experiencing. And now that we have some sobriety and recovery behind us, for me, several decades of recovery, I understand that I can process emotions, even if they're not pleasant emotions, without going off the deep end and isolating and escaping my life. Right. And you're talking about that processing too, with an awareness attached to it, which is really, really great. So now that we can achieve a level of emotional intelligence, how does this really affect our high performing lifestyle? What happens?
Yes, yes. So I know some people have heard of the term test taking anxiety. As a medical student, I've dealt with it a lot. And so we have individuals who go in to take a test, and they're sitting there, they've studied, they prepared, but when they get in front of the test, because of those high anxiety emotions, they forget information. They answer a question incorrectly. They bomb a test, or maybe again, they just mess up on areas where they know they should have done better, performed better. So for me, having emotional intelligence, having that emotional awareness and that empowerment is the opposite of the test taking anxiety. You're able to make connections that you weren't able to make before, and you maybe not even prepared for, because you have that sense of connection to self, and being able to have that emotional wellness gives you that power, that empowerment, and that knowledge base to be able to help build and again, just build empires. And I've been reading a lot lately about emotional intelligence for my business administration program, and Harvard Medical School or Forbes, the World Economic Forum. They're recognizing how important it is to have emotional intelligence, not just for your personal benefit, but professional benefits as well.
I'm firmly firmly behind the mindset that every single corporation on earth should have a built-in mental health department. Coaching for not only leadership qualities, okay, which they do, and managerial qualities, but emotional intelligence is absolutely paramount. Absolutely. And I would assume also makes for better relationships, don't you think, Genese?
Oh, yes. They help you negotiate, interact with people on a regular basis, not blow your gasket, not build a toxic environment. Yes.
And personal relationships as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about what advice you would give someone aiming to leverage their emotional intelligence to maybe boost their performance in a specific area. Give us an example.
Yeah, so one example comes to mind is Will Smith, actually. He talked during, I think it was his last movie that he put together, but he wanted to create the magic of every moment. He wanted to bring the magic to every moment, whether he was on set, whether he was having a conversation with someone. His goal was to bring magic. And I think that's what brought him to be the Will Smith that he is, because he was always looking to bring the magic in a certain moment with somebody. And what I would connect magic with would be joy, empowerment, freedom, those types of emotions. But I say for people who are going into even waking up in the morning, maybe you do meditation, maybe you have a moment where you're able to just kind of decompress, but thinking about how you can bring the magic, how you can bring the joy, how you can bring the love and empowerment and freedom to other people that you interact with. And if you're not quite up there at that level with your emotions, just think of what better emotion you can feel at this moment. Like I said, with fear and frustration, sometimes you might wake up in frustration or irritation, but trying to find that better feeling. Maybe it's just a feeling of relief. Like you said, peace. Maybe get into that state of peace. Maybe not so high up there, but if you can get to peace, that will do you a world of good. One, and again, building that momentum. So bringing the joy and finding the best emotion that you can right then.
So now that you're a medical student, one of the things you can do in terms of your practice is to bring the magic, correct?
Yes, yes.
Are you doing that personally?
I have. I love being in the hospital environment. I was just here recently on the south side of Chicago at a hospital, Jackson Park Hospital, and speaking with people who I've studied about different diseases and conditions, some of them rare, and being able to connect with people in that way where, there was this one lady young lady, been through a lot in her life, had a lot of surgeries. You could tell when you walked in the room, she had been through a lot. But when I talked to her, and I was really the only student out of about 5 who was willing to go in and just do all the exams, ask all the questions. I was kind of a zealous student. But when I go in and I ask her all of these questions, and she's just really cooperative. And at the end, she says that I'm going to be a really good doctor. You're going to be a really good doctor one day, Dr. D. And so I was like, wow, that made me feel good. But then when I walked out, I read some of her chart, and she was one of the most combative and cooperative patients that they had. And I was like, oh, okay. I was dealing with a monster in there. And she just,
you certainly managed to calm her down. And that's fantastic. I am so glad that you have been with us today. And Genese Dadzie can be reached how? Give us your number again.
Yes, you can text me at 773-759-0100 with the words HPEQ Coach.
Emotional intelligence coach Genese Dadzie. We talked about self-awareness and regulation and motivation and empathy and social skills, and she is available to work with. So please reach out, because she definitely has it going on. I am so glad that you were with us today. Thank you so much. This is the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and we'll see you next time.
From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.
All right, all clear.
There is more to life than simply surviving or even thriving. There's flourishing. High performance and quantum success coach Beth Larson helps you calibrate and elevate your life. Beth specializes in working with women who want more from their life, more energy, joy, passion, connection, and more meaning. As your coach, she will help you get clear about your life, prioritize what's important, and become a master of your energy. Visit BethLarsonCoaching.com.
Are you feeling pulled between the world of personal opportunity and your role as a caretaker? Who do you choose? You or everyone else? Well, you can have both. I'm Dr. Diane Garrison. My signature system, Find Your Fabulous, is a 4-month program which guides you to rediscover your passion and purpose. For more information or to book a free exploration call, visit fullpowerwomen.com.
What makes a coach irresistible, extraordinary, and successful? The Coaching Academy has graduated hundreds of students who have built the most fulfilling coaching businesses. That's because the Spiritual Life Coaching certification, based on the proven formula Rewire Your Brain for Success, is an innovative program designed to equip you with the knowledge and skills to support you in your journey of becoming an elite league coach. Inquire today by visiting coachingacademy.net.
Are you ready to put down that drink or drug for good? Are you struggling to maintain your recovery from addictive behaviors? Do you need help with a family member or loved one who's in early recovery or battling addiction? Get the help and guidance you need by arranging a recovery recharged phone session with me, Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, certified life and recovery coach. Call 1-800-889-1757. Make an appointment today or go to my website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com, and click on the link that says Recovery Recharged. Don't wait. Get the help you need today. This is Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Activate your DNA with the light codes of creation and implement the life of your dreams with the help of Pam Bright, a multidimensional healer, a light language channel, and a spiritual transformational coach. Pam offers a variety of sessions to heal your mind, body, and soul vibrations. She will connect you with your spirit team, activate your chakras, and more. Not sure what service is best for your journey? Find out by scheduling a free discovery call by visiting brightbutterflynetwork.com.
All right, we're coming in. Stand by.
She's the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.
Good morning and welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction, recovery, and life. And I have a very unique guest with us this morning doing something that I had never heard of until I met this woman. So I am very intrigued. And of course, I wanted to bring an expert on board. This woman, Morgyn Danae, we'll talk about dance for personal and planetary healing. And I cannot wait to hear what this is about, because all I know is right now we could use both of those things desperately. And I know all of you out there are thinking the same thing. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Morgyn, and then she's going to tell us what we can do to get our bodies moving and help heal the planet. Morgyn Danae is a dance movement and somatic recovery coach. She's a spiritual guide. She's a public speaker and performer. She's developed her approach over the past 25 years of study, professional practice, and lived experience. She shares her own somatic spiritual recovery from trauma and mental illness as a mentor and advocate. I can't wait to hear from her. Morgyn, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ellen. I am well. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You have so many certifications. I am so thrilled to hear all about your work. So let's talk very basically, okay? Tell me about the structure of your program. How does it work? What's this all about?
Okay, so in terms of the program, the one-to-one coaching program, that structure is very much a very customized process. I also do workshops and experiential immersions in nature and group settings, but one-to-one, it's very much about it's a whole framework. So it starts with a 90-minute assessment where we're really talking in depth about your story, your history, including your medical history, your if you're a mother, your birth story, if you'd like to share that, your postpartum care, even if it's 30 years later, your goals, your aspirations, your concerns. And I also work with a physical assessment with where you're at in your body and your breath and your patterns. And then we work with on a weekly basis. It's a minimum of a 12-week process. And it's very thorough. I'm working, really assessing you as we go. It's very interactive. And it's a beautiful, creative, but very practical process as well. But everything that I do is about kind of easing into the body.
And how did you come to do this? Where did this come from? How did this start for you?
Okay, well, I will keep it brief because it's a long story, because I've been in this general field for over 25 years or so, and that goes so quickly. But basically, I have to say that I have been guided by spirit to kind of develop what I do, so it's been through different trainings, but also through prayer, meditation, reflection, and asking for guidance. So it's really been put together as an interdisciplinary approach, which means many different kind of healing modalities come into this.
Were you a dancer?
Yes, from my spirit since a child, but not a child performer per se, but more that it was always in my blood,
And
Yes.
you felt compelled to use this and also use this movement as a somatic recovery coach. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So what I want to say about somatic, first of all, when people hear that term, people are hearing it more. It really has to do with being based in the body, being present in the body. And I like to say it's about making peace with our story and friends with our body. So somatic is very much, that word is based on the body being in relationship, connection to the body. And the breath is a super important part of that. So it's a process that we ease into of being in touch with the wisdom of our body, the intelligence, and how it's connected to our emotional and mental and spiritual states as well as physical.
And that was a personal experience from you. Did you recover from some trauma or mental illness that you want to tell us about?
Absolutely. Yes. So dance has always been a part of my life, but I was blessed to begin my journey of healing with a spiritual teacher in my 20s. And I didn't even know the extent of what I was dealing with. I was really facing a breakdown. And so that was connected with childhood mental, emotional, and sexual abuse. And so in that, what it was showing up as the symptoms were physical chronic issues, low back, hip pain, believe it or not. Those are the body can manifest in inflammatory states, aches and pains, digestive issues, and also severe depression and panic attacks. These were different things that I was dealing with, anxiety. And so as I was embarking on my healing journey and beginning to be trained as a spiritual guide, dance had always been just naturally for me. It was a healing process. It was a healing experience, and it was a spiritual practice. It was a way that I could kind of work with meditative states and prayer and connection and nature and being at peace in myself or expressing emotions. It was kind of what I was born with. And then I really got the calling to teach dance as a healing art. And that's where it kind of started as I was going deeper in my healing journey and my training. That's where it evolved.
Well, I mean, that's really something, because I had talked before on an earlier program about the emotional trauma that we feel, and the way that it manifests itself in our anger, in our frustration. But now, of course, this is the companion piece to that, by you saying to us that our trauma can certainly affect us physically, and it had for you personally. So that's something that everybody out there has to understand. You may think you're handling it, but if you are not letting it out, then it's going to go somewhere. And that means it's going to manifest itself physically. So let's talk about this just a little bit more. Tell me about what you would set up, either for a group or for a client. Where do you go here? Do you start with different kinds of music or movement? Explain a little bit more in detail what we're looking at.
Absolutely. So I work with people in person. I work with them online. It's kind of had a vast array of settings where it could be. I've been on Zoom for almost 10 years, believe it or not. But it can be working in the studio. It can be coming to somebody's home if they need that in enclosed space. That kind of everything. We're always really setting it as safe space. We also work in nature, because nature is a very grounding and nourishing impact. The thing is about trauma is that it doesn't matter how much we're in our heads about it. It's still the thing about trauma across the board is it affects our nervous system. It impacts and damages our nervous system, which we want to be focused on healing and bringing into balance. And so when we're doing this work, we are working with music. We're working with, again, the breath, because the breath helps us to start to tune into our bodies, to start to slow down. Even if we're going to speed up the rhythm, speed up the movement, we first start slow to tune in. How many of us constrict our breath, aren't even aware, aren't even in our bodies? We're just kind of in our heads, in our to-do lists, or in whatever everybody else's expectation of us, or whatever it is. So tuning into the body and starting to kind of let that our nervous system start to shift into a healing space, right? The parasympathetic, rest, digest, repair. And I like to say, and relate, brings us more present in our hearts to connect with ourselves and each other. It helps us to ground ourselves. We need to feel grounded and present and safe. And then these things are built into us, these feel good hormones. I won't get too geeky or nerdy about it, but our nervous systems, our brain waves, and our hormones, as well as our energetic fields, because we're electromagnetic beings, just like the earth. And if people only want to relate to it through science, that's fine. Neuroscience is very connected to the power of dance and how it impacts us, physically and emotionally. And so we go through a process to get you into the zone, so to speak, so we can start to kind of move into feeling more relaxed, feeling more open, feeling grounded, feeling more safe, so we can express ourselves.
Well, that certainly makes us feel more comfortable. I do remember the early episodes of Grey's Anatomy where the gals, after a very tough day, would turn around and say, let's dance it out,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
Let's dance it out.
exactly.
That's a real
Exactly.
thing.
I use that phrase all the time. And
Let's
I didn't know
dance it
they used
out.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm So tell me a little bit about the dancer spirit and what embodiment means.
Okay. So, the dancer spirit. Now, I want to say that, I really want people to be able to relate to that in their own way. For anybody listening, who's like that sparks something in them, I want them to be able to tune in and see what that is that's real for them. So I'm going to share my perception of it and my perspective, but I always want to support people to have their own reality and what's real for them. And so with the dancer spirit, the way I like to use that phrase and reach out to people that way is that part of us that is creative, that is expressive, that is even free, that part of us that is beyond the inhibitions, that is connected to our joy, that is connected to our bodies in an unapologetic way, where we're really not just trying to kind of meet a beauty standard or please others with what we do. Performance has its place. I love performance as well, but where we're just free in ourselves, connected. And it's very connected also to the inner child, to the that's where our creativity begins, our imagination, our playfulness.
Wow.
And
So tell me a little bit
yeah.
more about embodiment.
Yes. So embodiment, again, on a very simple level, is about being present in our bodies, is about owning the truth of who we are instead of things just being up in our heads and in a concept or somebody else's version of our reality. Embodiment is kind of taking it back down to earth and being our true selves, being an example instead of just talking about things, really living it. So when we
That
embody our dancer spirit, that's about kind of our daily life as well.
that's kind of expelling like your emotional freedom, right? When I work with treatment centers in recovery, I see all kinds of new methods to have people, like you say, be more relaxed, get out their creativity, lose their inhibitions, and become more of who they are in a relaxed and conscious state. So there is art therapy, there is music therapy, there's song therapy, and now dance therapy, which is a wonderful way to help people in recovery be proud of who they are and be conscious of who they are as happy and carefree human beings. So I think this is extremely beneficial. So talk to me about how your method actually supports women to feel more connected and confident. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, absolutely. And one thing in this is that we hold space for whatever the process is. So we don't have to skip to joy. You know what I'm saying? It gives us the space to really own whatever deep feelings are in there that need to be released, that are being held in the heart, in the nervous system. And so when we're working with expression, it could be crying, it could be getting in touch with anger, but it's helping us to process it, to release it and transmute it. And with women, a big thing for us is, of course, being focused on taking care of everybody else. And body image issues where we're bombarded with so much expectation of what we're supposed to be. And that keeps changing. So we're trying to follow that and being connected to ourselves. And that's starting to shift. But another thing, and again, if a woman is a mother, there's that part of her story, which is a huge part that's often overlooked, right? So we factor in those things, how she's feeling in her body, her experiences, her story, but with all women. And the thing about with women as well is this isn't a newfangled idea. Dance is ancient. Dance as a healing art is an ancient practice in many cultures. They may not be using that term, but it's a way as women too that we can tune into that deep ancient wisdom that we carry as women. And part of it is also connecting into our sacral chakra, which is that chakra energy center just below the belly button, our low belly, which is connected to our sensuality, our sexuality, our relationships. And we hold a lot of emotions there. It can get very deep. And so we want to be able to tune into our cores, tune into moving our hips, our pelvis in ways that are very healing and freeing, again, for releasing those emotions, transmuting them, releasing, things that ways that we've looked at ourselves or inhibitions, that it's like it could be even just throughout history with women, all of the things that we've gone through, right? And we're in a big healing place right now. And trauma has been a part of that,
It has.
So we want to, yeah.
So, well, you talk about so many things, all right. In addition to your own story, recovery as a dancer. I mean, it seems to be able to give us the embodiment of confidence, a sense of purpose, beauty, passion, expression, identity, all of those things that are very meaningful. So, if myself or my listeners out there want to take a virtual class with you, how do they find you? Can you tell us?
Absolutely. So I am, I have a website, morgyndanae.com, and I'm presently, kind of focused actually now on building my YouTube channel. That's really where I'm wanting to really build my online home.
What's the name of the channel?
Just Morgyn Danae. It may shift, but at this time it's Morgyn Danae.
And could you spell your name for us, please?
Oh, sure. Morgyn Danae, Danae.
Fantastic.
It's a little different. Yeah.
Yes. And since we're not only on YouTube, we're on Facebook, but we're on radio as well, we have to tell people who are driving to work. Morgyn Danae. So you're on YouTube. Yes. And where can we find you? Where can we find you for individual lessons?
Well, I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn, just to say that. But for so basically, I have a program. So that's a whole coaching program. And that is also, you can check that out on my website. I do a free consultation, a clarity call as well, if you're interested to connect and talk a little more. That is kind of gives people an opportunity to connect with me in a real time to talk about it. But looking at the website gives you more of a sense of it, of what I'm doing, where I'm coming from.
And you said your one-on-one coaching program is for women 40 plus. It's called Reclaim Your Creative Center. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So again, we're coming from that place of understanding that what we're holding in our bodies can be a lot of emotional and physical, spiritual, issues, but we're also holding deep wisdom, vibrancy, creative expression, beauty. All of that is in our bodies. And so I work with supporting women to kind of, and it's going to be women who've already done quite a bit of work. And a lot of the time there are puzzle pieces that haven't been put together, things that are not resolved. So I come in and I see that big picture and support them to go deeper in their work. And so with that, we're working with, again, your story. There is talk that is going on as well, because I've been doing that work for, again, over 25 years. And then we're moving into lifestyle. I create a program that is very customized to the person. We're working with the movement. We're working with manageable self-care and self-love, and these movement and breath routines, as well as journaling and different video tutorials and guided meditations. So it's all very tailored to the person and supports them along their process to start to kind of come out of these stuck places.
And I know you're also a Reiki level 2 master. So I'm a Reiki level 2 master. So there's that work as well. So they can work with you either in person or in a group or virtually as well. It's Morgyn Danae, Morgyndanae on YouTube, on Instagram, and Facebook as well. Yes.
Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook, yes.
And LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So now, without getting too complicated, because I know it's a series of things that I'm not always sure of, let's talk about dance and the divine eco-feminine. And tell me what that is. Explain it to me as if I don't know anything about this and what all of those parts represent, because this seems to be a lot of your work.
Yes, it is. So I will break it down. So divine ecofeminine, what that means is, again, the divine feminine. The feminine is, it's really the healed feminine energy, the healed, expression of the feminine. The feminine has kind of been looked down upon and discarded or diminished in a lot of ways. And you know what? It's all about healing, because we have the masculine and the feminine inside of us. It's all sacred, and we're all coming home to heal. So basically, being in that divine feminine is that flow energy. It's being tuned into our natural body cycles, to being able to rest and listen to ourselves and move in ways that are connected to our bodies as opposed to disconnected. And it's also about that joy, that creative expression and celebration of being women, of being again expressive, and all of these very positive attributes, being nurturing, being giving in ways that are not depleting to us. So we start to learn a lot about boundaries. The eco-feminine has to do with the earth, being connected to natural cycles, respecting nature, understanding that our bodies are a reflection of nature. We are nature, as opposed to looking at ourselves as just machines that are supposed to perform. And there's a lot of body shame as well. That's a whole huge thing, right? Our young girls are suffering as well. There's a very kind of dark shadow side to what's going on with how we feel about our bodies and how disconnected we are from ourselves as a part of nature, especially in these times. So we want to come into being fully human, fully part of nature, and being able to heal through that relationship.
Well, especially now, I think that women have to regain all of their personal power and
Yes.
find ways to reclaim it in ways that it may have been lost recently.
Yes. And it's
I
not about
think,
being men, it's not
no,
about
no,
being
no.
men.
It's about the empowerment. Absolutely. And also understanding that not only are we healing from wounds, as you say, but we're also passing down the wisdom of the positivity, the
Yes.
empowerment, and the motivation, which is a very
Yes.
important thing. All right.
Yes.
So now talk to me about what the importance of the sacral chakra is.
Okay, absolutely. And I know, some of your viewers may know that and some may not. So again, it is the energy center. We have all these, different energy centers. And that is, again, just below the belly button. And that is connected in as our root chakra is below that at the base of the spine. That has to do with our grounding. So the sacral chakra is very connected it's connected into our core, into our internal organs, into our whole connection to our bellies, which can be another intense story with us as women. And so the sacral chakra is very much an energy center where we will store emotions, we will store our different connections, our relationships, our ties to other people. I've heard a spiritual teacher liken it to kind of like a woman's purse. Everything kind of gets pushed in there, but really it's supposed to be a lot more clear, because it's a creative center. It's an energy center that's connected to our sensuality, our sexuality, our joy, our playfulness, and creative expression. It's also connected with the water element. So this is looking at it from perspectives that people might not be as familiar with, but that has to do with kind of being in flow, and can be a certain level of spontaneity to it. And so the sacral chakra can get very damaged in these different ways around our sexual histories, could be surgeries, could be birth stories, could be sexual abuse, all of these things. So again, we want to we're healing this place, we are working with empowerment. There's another energy center just above that is very connected with personal power and will, but this sacral chakra is, again, when we are connected with our hearts. We always want to be connected with the heart too. That's the
And that's
soul, right?
something that's something that dance movement will certainly help us. So it's very,
Yes.
very important to have that core healing and that sacred chakra all together so that we can do the stuff we need to do. I am
Yes.
so glad that you came to us today from your website. Dance is a very powerful healing vehicle for connecting one's spiritual self and feminine energy. Benefits of releasing freedom and attempting personal identity through dance, expression, and embodiment. And I think that says a lot about you, Morgyn. So please go to Morgyn's YouTube channel and LinkedIn and Instagram, Morgyndanae. Thank you so much for being here today, Morgyn, and we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Thank you.